Hi folks, I'm Tim and this is the Restoration Couple. In today's video I'm up here in the loft rooms and we're finally getting around to getting the electrics installed. Now the first thing I need to do is to get the socket boxes installed, and for that I'm going to be using a new toy, so stick around and I'll show you how I get on. Okay, so these loft rooms, one is being used as my office and I've just got an extension lead supplying that for now, or I have been. And this room has just been used for storage, but it's going to be a guest bedroom, so we really need to get the power sorted. Now I've got an electrician coming in to do all of the work, but the one thing I'm going to try and do to get a head start is just to get some sockets put into our plasterboard or drywall. And I've got lots of access in the eaves all the way around the building. So as we're pretty decorated in here already, we haven't got a true first fix scenario where you could kind of rough things in. And that's one reason why I don't want to mess around with the big dirty spirit level, because all mine are covered in mud. So I've invested in a little self-leveling laser, and this is going to just bang a line straight along there which we can mark up our boxes on. Nice and simple way to go, and if this is any good then I will leave a link down below. Now we're aiming to come up 450 from the finished floor level, and conveniently I've got a chair the other side set up at that because the tripod has a camera on it. Otherwise you can just stick this on any normal tripod. So that's number one. Over here we've got a single box just for a fuse spur for the heater. Right, I'm going to use the multi-tool, multi-cutter to whip that out. The build-up of the wall is 12mm of plasterboard, 50mm of insulation, solid insulation. Then we've got the studs with another 100mm between. So there's quite a bit here, but we only actually need to go 35mm deep. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully not wake the kids up. So I'm just using a normal old wood blade in this cutter, and if you look where the blade stops and the bracket bit starts is almost the same as what we need to cut here. So I know that as soon as we kind of bottom out the blade, we're at the right depth. It's also less than 50mm, so we're not going to be cutting through the back foil of that insulation. I haven't even had the phone call yet, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be too loud for 9 o'clock at night. So let's pick this up tomorrow. It was worth a try. So I did need to just notch out a little bit of the insulation to take the clips of those boxes that slot in behind the actual plasterboard, but that's pretty easy to do, and this worked out as a really simple and clean way of installing the boxes. The next thing I had to do was to drill a hole for the cable access behind. Now you don't really want to just wedge the cables in insulation because they can overheat, so I left a little bit of wiggle room by doing an oversized hole. I could then go back in and just tuck a little bit of mineral wool in around if I felt any drafts coming through at that point. The other option is to do a service cavity on the inside of your insulation by counterbattening before your plasterboard, which is what we did on the ceiling, and that's a super easy way to make sure you're not penetrating through the insulation at every entry point. So I've been putting all those sockets in on the other side. Over this side in the office, we've actually turfed out the eaves like I have elsewhere. I've boarded and carpeted those. I'm not going to go into that because it's fairly bog standard stuff. But now we've got the last little stretch here. But because this wall here is where my desk lives, usually, rather than having a load of sockets, and eventually my office might move out of this room, and I don't want to kind of cut a load of holes in this panelling. So I'm going to put a dado trunking. It's a bit more commercial looking, but it'll be hidden underneath the desk. And like most offices or home offices, you end up just with extension leads everywhere. So I'm going to stick in, I think I've got 5 double sockets, which by the time I've got, you've got speakers, 2 servers, a screen and MacBook and all this sort of stuff, that should be okay. So I'm going to get that position now. I've worked out the lowest my desk is going to be. I'm going to build a raising desk at some point. So I'm going to get that in. Fairly straightforward. The cable comes along and up, and then the guys will run it in, and then it will go back off to the rest of the floor. Now I figured here's a good chance to just chat about electrics. Home electrics, DIY versus getting a professional in. And I quite often get asked, why did I get an electrician in for certain jobs? Well, when it comes down to it, there are certain things I'm more than happy to get a professional in to do. Electrics is one of them. We're adding a new ring to the house here. There's all sorts of issues regarding building regulations and getting things signed off. And sure, I could probably do a certain amount of it myself, but then I still would have to get things tested and signed off and inspected, and there's fees associated with that. So for me at least, there's a balance. There's a case of finding an electrician who is, let's just call it DIY friendly, who kind of understands your situation. You've done everything up to this point and you're happy to just get a little bit of the prep work done. Now, I don't mean start banging in cables and concealing stuff in walls, and I would completely understand if an electrician said, absolutely not touching that. That's completely different from what I'm doing here. I'm simply discussed with him beforehand, are you right for me to get the boxes in and a bit of this trunking and things like that? So no, I'm not looking to take away their expertise. I'm simply doing a little bit of the donkey work to shave a few hours off of their time, which keeps my costs down a little bit, and also, keeps me integrated in the project. When they arrive, hands off, I can disappear and make the cups of tea. But to the other extreme, if it was a big job, a big rewire, then I probably just leave the whole thing to them. They'll have their own workflow, their own way of doing things, and they're always going to manage to get it done quicker. We're going to run the cables in there. I'll leave that bit. Electricians can do that. Oh no, I don't want to start taking second guesses of where they want stuff. As far as the sockets, it's just in and out, and I've left everything loose. They can move things around and clip it if they need to. Okay, so it's a little bit embarrassing to say and admit how long it's taken to get to this point up here. I think we're into the 3rd year, maybe 4th year of doing bits up here on the top floor, but I'm pleased to say it's almost habitable now. But the nice thing is we've got dedicated power up here. This floor is on its own ring, and we've got the heaters, those electric radiators you saw put in an earlier video, and then now all these sockets and the lighting and everything sorted. Now, Andy, or actually Ben, the electrician, came in on one Saturday morning and did everything up here. What I'd done is already put all the boxes in place like you saw, which kind of sped things up a little bit. That took the thinking out of it as far as where they were going to be, either side of beds and stuff. I could do that in my own time, get everything either penciled on or cut out, ready. And then also I'd cleared out all of the eaves. So there was really easy access all the way along there. And actually I just dragged a 50-meter drum of cable all the way around, so it's just loose there. Which just meant less crawling around and messing around. And Ben could just bring them through when needed. And I even went as far as kind of having the sockets dotted around the room ready, so I knew I wasn't going to be running out to screw fix halfway through the morning and worrying about things like that. Apart from the lack of having any lampshades or anything on those ceiling lights, what I've done is I've put an LED strip on the last of those timbers on the roof. So I've got this LED downlighter that goes wall to wall across the top, which is quite nice, especially in the evening. You only really have to have the wall light on, and it makes a bit of a feature of that. Ignore the @ sign. That was just for a little bit of video we were shooting earlier in the week. One other last thing is that laser level. What on earth have I been doing all these years? Messing around with spirit levels. What a game changer. You can get, like I said earlier, a 360 one, which is, I think, a spinning laser inside it. So it's kind of putting a constant line around the room. But actually it was such a wide beam that it's about just under 180 that rarely did I find that I was off the end of it. The only couple of things that I found with it are, one, you've got to get it leveled in place anyway, so you've got to either have a tripod, or I was just clamping it to the wall in certain places, but that's pretty easy to sort. But if it's super bright, I didn't really struggle with I don't think I struggled at all actually with it indoors when I was doing cabinets and things downstairs in the utility last week. But where I did struggle is as soon as you go outside, it's pretty much pointless. You'd need a much more powerful version or some proper sight gear to use it outside. That said, I did go out at about 8 o'clock at night where it's pretty much dark and used it to set some fence posts earlier on in the week, and it worked fine. You know, the distance is fine, providing it's dark enough. So yes, you can use it outside, but you might be out there in your pajamas. I hope that helped, that little insight into how I view and manage electrics on our renovation. You know, at the end of the day, you got to stay safe. You got to do things by the book, or you should do things by the book. And that's just how I kind of sort things out. I can get the gear here. I can do a little bit of the dirty work, but at the end of the day, I'm happy to let the electricians do what they do and leave it to them. But anyway, big thumbs up to electricians. I'm not sure my brain could do that every day. There's a lot of thinking, and you have to think 5 steps ahead as far as where you're putting cables and the fiddle. I'm not sure I'm dexterous enough wiring up lights and stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself or get an electrician to do it, and we'll see you next time.